Hi everyone, my name is Danny, and I recently got into a mess up to the ears. Yes, I know it happens when you mess up, and these joints then do not forget, do not wash off, and in general, they are with you for life, so I had something like that. Well, now I'll tell you more about everything, but first, get comfortable and watch. Just do not forget to put likes, write comments, and of course, subscribe to the channel. My family and I did not always live together. There were many moments when we quarreled, especially my mom and dad and my sister and I. Yes, it was just awful when quarrels started. It was like a chain reaction. We all swore, and then we didn't talk to each other for a week. My sister's favorite activity was to turn me in, which she loved to do and enjoyed watching me get my parents' head kicked in the face. She's 2 years older than me, not much of a difference, but it's enough for Sister Rena to turn on her brain and start blackmailing me. Since we were in the same school, she was the first to know if I got into a fight with one of the boys in the hallway, if I got a bad grade, or went to skip class. She was adept at figuring out everything about me, while I was a blind idiot, not noticing anything. That's how I was. I knew that she would someday prepare something top-notch, and destroy me right in a minute, because we were not sure of each other and never sought to establish contact. Even when our parents are gone, we won't be any closer, you know, Rena always said. The lack of support from my family brought up in me isolation and distraction, I think, and it drew trouble to me. And then one day, a new girl came to our school. This was a girl from another city, and we did not know anything about her. Her name was Monica. She immediately showed herself active, kind. All the teachers adored her for her ability to not only study well, but also get along with everyone. She was called the new pride of the school and was in my class. I, of course, was only a shadow to her, in other ways, as for many. Monica didn't say hello to Noah, and in fact, her attention was focused only on those who were beneficial to her. Yes, for some reason, only I saw this trait in her. And then one day, our fate crossed, and I bitterly regretted it. At school, we were supposed to have a holiday. The anniversary of the school, and our class was preparing a speech. You already understood that Monica took it upon herself to organize the holiday. So everyone was rustling around, preparing numbers, fussing, but not me. I was kind of flat, and one morning she came up to me, our star. She asked me to participate in the training. I politely refused, and she threatened me that she had never been refused before. It confused me, but I didn't pay much attention to the words. I lived on as I had lived before her, a gray, peaceful life. And yet, when the day of the holiday came, Monica came to me and again asked for help. I again refused, and I heard from her a threat. You will regret it. When I went outside, she began to tease me. She called me so much, pushed me. I did not understand why she was doing all this and what the motive was. I was very angry. I told her to get off. Then Monica hit me with a stone lying next to her. She hit me in the leg. I did not understand her aggression, but I was so mad that I pushed her and she fell to the ground and lost consciousness. I was very scared. I tried to bring her to her senses, but she did not come to her senses. So I called an ambulance and ran away. I was scared. I was very confused. I didn't know how to behave. I ran home and pretended that everything was fine. I ran to my room, praying that everything was fine with her. That night, Rena came up to me and asked how the holiday was. I started to stutter. And then I muttered to her, "None of your business," and that was it. The next day at school, we found out that Monica was in the hospital. She was fine, but she hurt her head a little when she fell. The police arrived for the proceedings. They began to interview everyone who had last seen Monica and who had communicated with her. I was silent, and everything was shaking inside. I could have killed her. It bothered me. But no one would believe that she was the first to attack me, because she had a brilliant reputation, unlike me. And then I didn't know that the nightmare was just beginning. When I was questioned at school, I said that I left almost immediately after the start. My sister was present next to me. And I lied to the police and thought, Rena's about to turn me in, say I've been there longer than I say. And when the cop asked who could confirm my words, Rena said, I can. He was at home. I saw him leave. I gave him money for a taxi. My little brother does not like all these events. He is not like many of us. He is a hermit in our family, she said and laughed. The policeman looked her straight in the eye, and Rena looked him in the eye. He believed us and let us go. In the evening, I thanked her when we got home, and Rena said she saw everything. I was very surprised. How did you see it? and why didn't you turn me in? To which she replied that she also observed the new strange tendencies. I know we're not a perfect family, and we don't really get along, but I saw that she started it all first. Even when she took you outside, I noticed it and followed you. I also know why she did it, my sister told me, and she told me that on the very first day, she and Monica were arguing about something. Rena beat her in an argument, and Monica didn't like it, so the new girl decided to take revenge on her through my brother. The sister agreed that it was a low act. She stupidly wanted to bring us problems, but Rena swore that she would not allow anyone to touch her family. I was extremely surprised, because this is so unlike her. I told her everything in detail, and then my sister promised that she would talk to Monica again in private. On the same day, she went to see her in the hospital. Turns out the cops were there at the time. At the sight of Rena, Monica stiffened slightly and rudely told my sister to get lost. I know what you're up to. You can't get away with it. I don't know what you want from my family, but I won't let you trample on it, Rena said. Then there was a scream from the ward, and Monica's mother and the cop came running. Monica was sitting on the couch and screaming in tears. She pointed her finger at the surprised Rena and said that it was all Rena's fault that she hit her on the head. The sister was very surprised. She asked Monica to calm down, but so hysterically shouted, asked to arrest the attacker. At the sight of all this mess, my sister got up and said that Monica was crazy, that she made it up, that they were sitting and just talking, but the police officer was already taking her to the station. In general, the mess began. I already thought that because of me, my sister would go to jail and rot in prison. I couldn't let that happen. My parents and I went straight to the police station to get Rena out of there. My sister was surprisingly calm and confident, and I was surprised. In the end, during the interrogation, our lawyer came. We hired him as soon as we went to the proceedings. And when Monica's mother accused us of almost killing her daughter for the 100th time, my sister pulled out her phone and turned on the recorder. We all listened to the expression of my face changed after each sentence. I hate your whole family. Your father dumped my mother as soon as he found out she was pregnant. How can you do that? He's back in the family, in your family. I grew up alone with my mother, and I could have lived a full-fledged family like you. I should have been in your shoes. But I will put you away, destroy your little brother, and then you. Silence hung in the air. My parents looked at each other, and my mother looked at my father and the woman. Dad's eyes were round with surprise, and then he said that this was the first time he had seen this family. The woman denied it too, and then she said she would talk to her daughter. In general, it turned out that the man, Monica's father, really looks like my dad, and he really did something ugly to them, and Monica lived with the idea of getting revenge on him. And then she thought that she had found his children, that is, us, and even tried to destroy them. A little more, and everything would have gone to ruin if it hadn't been for my smart sister. It's an adventure we won't forget for a long time, but you know what? After this incident, we all got closer, much closer.
Hi, we are Siamese twins, Tony and Molly. Now we are 30 years old. We are sisters. We want to tell you our story. We were born into a poor family of farmers. Mom and Dad said that when they got married, for a long time they could not have children. The years passed, they did not get younger, and despair grew. My mother has undergone dozens of medical procedures and examinations. They spent almost all their earnings on trying to have children. And when they lost all hope, Dad offered to adopt a child. So my parents began to prepare themselves and their home for children. And then, at the very last moment, when the nursery for Evie's future daughter was ready, my mother felt strange. Dad made Mom's favorite pâté, and Mom threw up right at the table. She thought she was ill and self-medicated, but the nausea got worse every day. So she went to the hospital, where she was told that she was pregnant with twins. Shocked, my mother ran home and told my father what had happened. They could not believe their ears. Dad screamed so loud with happiness that the neighbors thought he was being kidnapped. Well, they decided not to take the adopted child just yet. They couldn't believe their luck. Every day, my mother and father prepared the house for the two children. It was all modest, but tasteful. During pregnancy, my mother had some difficulties. It was not always possible to keep calm. Stress and nerves affected her health. Around the 7th month, she suddenly became ill, fainted, and was rushed to the hospital, where she had an early birth. What the doctors saw shocked the entire staff. A girl was born, followed by a second one. 2 different people were connected by a common pelvis. There were 2 heads, 4 arms, 2 bodies, and 1 pelvis and 4 legs. One of the nurses fainted, not expecting to see this. When we were shown to my mother, she was confused. At first, even thought that the doctors were joking. And then she got scared and screamed at the top of her voice that she must have been cursed. My father didn't want to pick up the fiend, as the neighbors called us. The first thing they were advised to do was leave us in the hospital or take us to a baby home. Such children do not live long, their doctors warned. Who knows? Perhaps this is what contributed to the fact that we were still left, not thrown out, but taken home. The doctors did not agree to perform the operation. We saw our childhood as ordinary. We grew up together and adapted to each other, but it was difficult to do it. We all have our own tastes and preferences, character, mood. For example, I wanted to wear a red dress and Molly wanted to wear a black one, and everyone else grabbed whatever they liked. But we could only wear one because all our dresses were custom made. They were sewn together in the pelvic area. Molly says, Tony and I used to come up with different games together to make it fun. No one played with us. Everyone was afraid of the view. Over time, we came to terms with people's scared faces. They avoided us like the plague. But that wasn't the most difficult part. When Tony and I were fighting, we couldn't each go to our own room because we were one. But when it came to paying for travel or utilities, we were perceived as 2 persons at once. Tony says, the people around us thought for a long time, wondered how to perceive it. And once, when we grew up, something unexpected and probably even unrealistic happened. I would never have thought that we would be lucky enough to survive this. Molly fell in love with a military man, and he reciprocated. I was genuinely happy for her. Really, but every time they cooed together, I felt awkward. I was used to my sister and I always being together, but they were romantically involved. Soon, they were going to get married. The ceremony was a modest one, consisting of a few close friends and parents. Perhaps if Molly's fiancé had any, they would have been against such a marriage. But fortunately, everything was fine. Probably too much for people like us. Molly goes on to say, I was insanely happy. I was lucky enough to experience love. Of course, not without my sister's permission, because she saw our relationship up close. I didn't want to embarrass her, but we had no choice. I was actually glad that we had lived to see this moment. My fiancé often thanked Tony for being so supportive. Well, then another miracle happened. I got pregnant. Yes, imagine that. The fact is that my sister and I are able to bear a child separately. So I waited for the baby, and my sister supported me as best she could. Of course, this has affected our health. The immune system is very much weakened by such a load. But we survived, and I gave birth to an absolutely healthy boy. My husband and I named him Hop, which means hope in English. My husband and I were very happy. Although our family was showered with thousands of views, some were afraid, some despised and hated, some were just curious, but we learned to live with it. Tony says, when she gave birth, I was so worried. Just imagine that your body, even partially, gives birth separately from you. I felt her condition, the pain, the fear. I went through it with her, and that's why I loved my nephew as my son. Unfortunately, happiness doesn't last forever. Molly's husband died in an accident, and not so long ago, we were diagnosed with hepatitis C. Yes, we were offered to take a risk now and have an operation to save at least one of us. But no, we thought for a long time and decided that since we came to this world together, we will leave together. We had an unusual life with its adventures, ups and downs. Did we regret that we were born? Maybe sometimes, but life is so unpredictable. It should be loved for what it is. If you ever meet people such as us, Siamese twins, do not be afraid. They will be pleased. They will not offend you in any way. It's just that we are special, but in our hearts, we can love just like everyone else.